This is Calm AF, a podcast for humans who are hard on themselves. A podcast for the overthinkers, people pleasers, perfectionists, and overachievers. I'm Kristen Finch, and I'm going to teach you how to quiet that incessant negative chatter in your head. Because you know what a person with a calm mind can do? Anything they want. Grab your coffee, gorgeous soul, because today's the day you get Calm AF. Hello, gorgeous souls. Welcome to Calm AF. If you're listening to this podcast on the day that it's published, then you know that tomorrow is a very, very exciting and special day. Tomorrow is February 29th, Leap Day. It's Leap Day. Now, I know I get excited about silly things like this, but listen, this is a rare occurrence on the calendar. We only get this day. It's not even like a yearly holiday. We only get this day once every 4 years. And the technical reason, just in case you didn't know, is because it actually takes not 365 days, but 365.24 days for the Earth to go around the sun. So about every 4 years, we've got an extra day. In order to keep us aligned with this calendar that we all are so used to keep us in line and structured, we have to add an extra day to the calendar every 4 years to account for this. So that February in the Northern Hemisphere doesn't one day feel like summer, right? Because we have accounted for this extra time, this 0.24 days. So that's the technical reason why it matters or why we do it. But who cares about that? Who cares? Great. Now we can keep February feeling like February. For me, I like it because it feels really special. It feels like an opportunity to reflect on life, honestly. I know Leap Day isn't that deep, right? But listen, I can make anything deep. So I think it's such a great opportunity to really kind of reflect on how are you living? You get this bonus day once every 4 years. How are you living it? What do you think about your life and how your average days are? And if you had a bonus day, how would you spend it? And another way that I like to kind of think about it, it's going to sound a little morbid, but whatever, is let's just say you were at the end of your life. You found out you are at the end of your life on Earth. And right at the last minute, someone gifts you 24 extra hours. If that were to happen, how would you spend that day? This is the way I like to think about it. This is why I go deep on Leap Day. Because if you were at the end of your life and someone handed you 24 extra hours and you could spend them any way that you wanted to, how would you spend them? Now, I have spent actually a decent amount of time talking to people who do know that they're kind of nearing the end of their life. Either they're very old or they have an illness or some reason they know that their time is coming to an end. And listen, all of our time is coming to an end, right? It could be tomorrow. It could be 100 years from now, in case you live really long. But we're all getting there. But there are some people who are like, yeah, but I actually have kind of a pretty clear end time coming up. And there's something that happens when you know this. Okay, there's something that happens when you are kind of faced with, hey, my time is limited here. How do I want to spend this time? And it's interesting how it can have such an immediate shift on your perspective, where it's 1 minute you were like, I've got all the time in the world and let me really focus on all of these things and climbing the ladder and making more money and, achieving more things. And then you have this moment, there's the before and then there's the after, and you're like, oh. And what I call it in this moment is you are zoomed out. You go from hyper focused on what is right in front of you, the details and the little details about life. And all of a sudden you are like, zoop, you are just zoomed out and you've got this wide angle lens, this zoomed out perspective on life. And there's something that happens when you do that, when you're able to zoom out and you see that the little tiny things that feel so in your face and so urgent, when you're zoomed out, you're like, I don't even see that shit anymore. That stuff doesn't even show up on my radar. It doesn't matter. It's like the big things that feel super urgent and important. When you're zoomed out, you're like, oh no, those were actually really, really tiny little things. And the things that seemed like I kind of took for granted, or I just was like, yeah, that's great and all, but here's, spending time being present with my kids or with my partner or with my family or doing things that bring me joy. Those are great and all, but first I got to do this and this and this and this and this. Zoomed out, those things become small deals, and the big things, I'm saying this backwards. The big things become little and the little things become big. The things that we don't seem to be so hard pressed to do become important when we're zoomed out. I remember, so if you don't know this story, I was engaged in my 20s to a man named Mike, and he was killed in a car accident. And so I had this very, very immediate shift of perspective. And I remember vividly, like I can put myself right back into this moment. I was sitting in the back seat of my mom's car and we were leaving the hospital after he had died. It was Saturday morning. It was a beautiful day. It was like really nice out for November. It was sunny and we were in the suburbs of Chicago. So there was a lot of traffic. It was a very, normal Saturday morning in a suburb. So lots of people going lots of places. And I was obviously in shock and in a daze, but I remember very clearly thinking, I was looking around at the cars around me and I was thinking like, oh, they don't even know how good they have it right now, right? I was looking at the car next to me. There was a couple, like a married couple. They were probably my age now, but I was a lot younger. But I remember looking at them and they were both just sitting in the car at the stoplight, just looking forward. They weren't talking. They weren't doing. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, say something. Say something. You're alive. He's alive. Say something. And listen, they were just probably out running annoying errands. But I remember this from the zoomed out perspective that I had gained overnight in an instant. I remember thinking like how I would give anything to just be out running annoying errands right now, just sitting in the car, not even talking to Mike, just sitting there. That is what I wanted. And I remember thinking like that, just being present in that moment is what it means to be alive. That's what matters. And I've been through lots of other things, lots of other, upside down, like turning your life upside down situations. And I know I've shared this before, probably even just in a recent podcast where I was talking about Emily and when we were in the hospital. And those are the moments, right, where it's like so hard, but you have this perspective shift and it brings you immediately into what matters. And I always think in these moments, because I'm always craving ordinary, like sitting in a hospital with my daughter, not having answers, and just what I wouldn't give to be home, sitting on the couch, folding laundry. And Emily's either sitting there with me or she was upstairs or my family is just in the same house with me, right? Like I just want to be making tacos. Like those are the moments when you have this perspective shift that you realize matter more than anything, right? And so I always like to come back to this. Like, what would it feel like if we stopped forgetting? If we stopped forgetting to zoom out and see see the world and all of the things that we think are so important that are right in front of us, if we were zoomed out, what would life be like if we just spent our time that way? One of my favorite examples of this, just what really matters and people are really focused and how you're kind of how the way you show up changes when you're zoomed out. So here's an example that I often share. So anytime I go to a show at Red Rocks, I always joke. I tell people, like, listen, when we are done here, there is going to be chaos like you've never seen. There is just disorder everywhere in this parking lot, everyone trying to get out at the same time. And there's like 2 ways to get out, and there's a million people. And nobody's directing traffic. Honestly, it is just like a free-for-all. Except one time, my best friend Amanda and I went and saw a Tori Amos concert just not too long ago over the summer. And somehow, I don't know if we found like a portal, but like I just turned down this thing and all of a sudden we were out of the park. I don't know what happened then, but most of the time, what happens is like there is just madness in this parking lot. Cars are just all facing in different directions because there's no order, like there's no lines. Everyone's just in this big open lot. And so you can go anywhere you want. And so everybody is just going any direction they want. Nobody knows what they're doing. And it is insane. And the most amazing thing about it is like nobody cares. Now, in any other situation, it would be like people would probably be screaming at each other and honking and hitting each other with their cars and all these things, but not after a Red Rock show, because what happens during a Red Rock show is that you are surrounded, you are reminded for like 4+ hours of what matters. You are zoomed out, right? You are surrounded by beauty. You are surrounded by love. You are surrounded by joy. You are surrounded by connection. Like people are just connecting energetically to each other and they're all kind of vibrating at the same frequency. And the frequency is high because it's music and it's beauty and it's love and it's singing and all of the things. So you spend all this time in this state of zoomed out, what really matters. Oh, I should spend more time doing this. I should spend all my time feeling like this. And then we all go to the parking lot and we get in our cars and we are still feeling that. And there's chaos and it should be stressful and we should all be mad, but we're not. Because we all remembered, we all zoomed out. We stopped forgetting for those few hours and we all connected. And we're like, oh, remember what matters is how we all felt together there. I want you to think about what your life would feel like if you were spending all of your time in that state instead of forgetting what really matters. How would your life feel if you were just somehow found yourself in let's be real, a Trader Joe's parking lot, right? Why are they always the worst? So you're in a Trader Joe's parking lot and there's chaos and people are backing out into each other and everyone's mad. But you don't forget. You remember this actually doesn't matter. What matters is love and joy and beauty and kindness and connection, being present. These are the things that matter. What would be different if everybody stopped forgetting? This is why I created Calm AF Life, honestly, is because people need to stop forgetting. Because I always say, I'm like, can you imagine what would happen if everyone was walking around with regulated nervous systems and everyone was walking around with emotional intelligence and knowing how to rewire their mind? Do you know what that world would be like? The whole program is about remembering what really matters and learning tools to help you stop forgetting. I literally send daily reminders to my clients like, hey, just in case you were going to forget today, here's another reminder. Don't forget what matters, right? And okay, back to the leap day. I know it feels like I went off track, but I didn't, because that is how we would spend our last 24 hours if they were gifted to us. That's how we would spend it, focused on what matters. We would not be focused on our bills, our credit scores. We would not be focused on that person who said something in a really snarky way to us. Those are the things that wouldn't matter. The to-do list that we didn't get all the way through doesn't matter. Did I experience love? Did I connect with people who I love? How did I spend today? Because all of those other things, they take care of themselves. I promise you, they do. You do not have to be focused on the details in order to get things done. And by details, I mean there's those little tiny things that we like to spend all our time thinking about. It's not actually getting things done. Zooming out, focusing on what matters. So I want to end this episode with this. So like I said, I send these daily reminders out to Calm AF Life clients. And so I want to share with you what I sent them today, inspired by this idea of zooming out and leap day. If you were at the end of your life and you were gifted 24 extra hours, how would you want that precious time to feel? What important truths would you realize? What would you do? How would you spend this precious time? What would you not do? Who would you see? Who would you spend your precious time with? What would you do with them? Who would you not see? Who would you not even spend 2 seconds thinking about? What would you say to the precious people who you are spending your precious time with? What would you tell them matters? What does matter? What doesn't matter? What would that extra bonus 24-hour day feel like? And even though you aren't at the end of your life right now, you have been gifted 24 extra hours. Go create that day. Go create that life. That is what I sent to them this morning. And it's so simple. So that's what I want to leave you with. I want you to reflect on what I just shared. If this were your last 24 hours on earth, how would you spend the time? How would you show up? What would you not be focused on? It's the zoomed out perspective. From the zoomed out perspective, the shift into that space. What would not matter and what would? And how can you spend today, or tomorrow, leap day, your bonus 24 hours, how can you spend that aligned with this zoomed out perspective? It's very simple. Go create that life. And as always, if you need help, if you keep forgetting and you need some reminders and you need some tools that will help you get it at a different level, Calm AF Life is how. That is why it's there. Okay, the link is in the show notes as always. I hope you have an amazing bonus day. I hope you have an amazing every day. I love you so much. I will see you next time. Thanks for listening. And before you go, one more thing. So as you know, I am slightly obsessed with helping as many humans tap into their calm AFness as possible. So if this podcast has helped you, would you please leave a review, make sure you're subscribed, and share it with your friends. Also, make sure you head on over to KristenFinch.com to see how you can work with me. You can sign up for my emails and get any other goodies I have available. Until next week, I love you so much. I am so grateful that you're here. I'll see you next time.